Hi again, everybody, and welcome to the Let's Reign podcast, revealing conversations with UC athletes, coaches, and administrators. I'm your host, Dan Hoard. My first guest this week fits two of those titles. She was an athlete at UC. Now she is an administrator, Deputy Director of Athletics, Maggie McKinley. Let's go back to your playing days. You were a hurdler at UC. What were some of the highlights of your athletic experience?
Yeah, I came here when they just started the women's program back up. So they were dormant for quite a while. And Coach Sneer said, hey, come here, be the foundation. I thought that was awesome. And the big highlight was we used to joke that in his weekly newsletter, the Bear Tracks, every week we were breaking school records because we were the first people to ever run the race or ever do the event. And so we were quick to volunteer, like, hey, no one's done that event yet. Let's go ahead. We're now the school record holder.
Nice.
I'm in the top 10 for a little while. But that was really fun. It was really fun to build something. And that was the cool part. People who took a chance, believed in his vision, came in, came a part of a well-established men's team, and kind of built the future and to where it is now.
Did any of those records last?
No, thank goodness. That was my hope, that my name would not be in the top 10 for very long, because that meant we got better.
Gotcha. Did you begin to think of a career in athletic administration when you were a student athlete?
Actually, I came here as a graphic design major in DAP, and I loved the program, but I fell in love with my psych course. And the guy teaching it, the professor, Dr. G, talked about sports psychology. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to marry two of my passions, athletics and this love of this, gen ed course that I was taking at the time. And so I thought I wanted to really help student athletes, and that was the way I could do it. In my senior year, our athletic director, Bob Goyne, said, Maggie, what are you doing? You don't need to go to school for another 4 years. If you really want to help student athletes, go into administration. Be at the table to make the decisions that impact the student athletes. And when I looked into it and I saw it was a 1-year graduate program, I was sold. So March of my senior year, I changed all of my grad school applications to go into sport administration. And it was that conversation in a hallway with the athletic director that completely changed my career path.
Well, it's interesting because you have the opportunity now to do similar things.
Yeah.
I mean, you can give that piece of advice to a student athlete that shapes the rest of their life.
Yeah, I always talk to the student athletes and I say, you never know who's in the elevator with you. You never know who you're running into in the hallway. Share your goals, share your passions, share your career aspirations, because that person can open a doorway for you. They can be a connection to someone or something, or they can talk about, did you ever think about it this way? And that's what happened to me. And so I say, I can't help you if I don't know you, or I don't know what you want to do or what your passions are. So the more that we have those conversations, the more I can think about, okay, who can I connect you with? Here's a natural person. Wow, have you ever gone down to the 6th floor and had this conversation with this person? Have you ever gone down to the 1st floor? Hey, we have this great donor who owns this business. You should have a conversation with them.
You are the SWA at UC, the senior woman administrator, the highest ranking woman in the athletic department. What does that mean to you, and what are the responsibilities that go with that title?
Yeah. I mean, I reflect back to my time as a student athlete, and when I was a student athlete, there was usually only one female in the entire department. A lot of times they were in academics, maybe in compliance. And so when I looked at that, I was like, okay, there's just one position. And now what I think about is making sure that our student athletes realize there are a lot of opportunities. It's not just one seat at the table for a female, but the reality is I'm the one who's making sure I'm at the table, I'm in the room, asking the questions, providing perspective from all sorts of views and the lenses. So I feel like there's a great amount of responsibility because of the access I gain with that title. And then also making sure that it's not just one seat. So if we need a bigger table and more chairs, that I'm helping facilitate that.
You work with and represent all athletes at UC. males and females,
Yeah.
but do you feel an extra responsibility to make sure that the women in the athletic department have the opportunity for equal treatment, equal advancement, et cetera?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's because I think when I have conversations with our female student athletes, they convey that to me. That's the way they see me. They see that role. So that's their assumption. And so part of that responsibility I have to take on. And then also educating them. There are a lot of people in this department, men and women, who are there that are helping facilitate opportunities for them, behind the scenes, making sure there's equity and opportunity for them. And so that's part of that thing. You know, they come in, they see the title, they're like, okay, well, that's the person we must go to for all female, student athlete issues. And then I take that opportunity to say, hey, yeah, I'm one of many people in this building. And so, yeah, that is something that I know it's a little bit of, I have the title, I need to take on that responsibility.
Yeah. So this past summer was an exciting one for the University of Cincinnati for former Bearcat female athletes. Annetta Chikawoke won a silver medal in Paris. Jordan Thompson won a silver medal in Paris. Vanessa Gilles competed in the Olympics as well. How proud were you to see former UC athletes reach the pinnacle of the sports that they participate in?
Yeah, I think it's one of my proudest moments, that in graduation. I look at when they come in here as 18-year-olds and the promises that we've made. We said, hey, you're gonna come in here, we're gonna develop you for life after college, and whether you go into pro sports, whether you go into graduate school, whether you go into your business career, we're going to prepare you, and you're once a Bearcat, always a Bearcat. So the fact that Annette has continued to train here, the fact that Jordan had opportunities to go play professionally overseas because of her experience here, the fact that Vanessa is an incredible story, being able to go out and bounce around several teams before she found the right club, and Canada finally wised up and pulled her up to their national team. But seeing that hard work and what we poured into them come to fruition is awesome. And it's just, I think, a testament to our coaches and our staff, the support staff here, who kind of created that foundation for them that they could build on.
What do you find most fulfilling about what you're doing now?
Oh, man, homecoming weekend is my favorite weekend of the entire year. Seeing our former student athletes come back. I now started to age myself where I have connections from my days as a student athlete to student athletes in the 90s all the way to present. So going to the grid and running into student athletes from all different generations and eras here, listening to the stories, feeding into the stories, and just their gratitude, the positive experience that they talk about, where you might not have sensed that when they were here, but that whole reflection back, that's incredible. Like I could just that fills me up for several months. My tank is full after that weekend.
You're involved in every aspect of the athletic department, but you led the search for the hiring of Katrina Merriweather as UC women's basketball coach. You called it a no-brainer at the time. Describe the process of bringing Katrina back to UC. Yeah,
I've known Katrina since we were 18 and 19 years old. I remember sitting in Fifth Third Arena, the Shoemaker Center at the time, and sitting in section 119 at all her games because I was one of those student athletes that went to every event. And we stayed in touch after college because we both went into this industry, her in coaching and my original path in compliance. So I was her one phone call away with questions, hey, let me run this by you. And so we stayed in touch, and I knew who she was as a person. I knew what her values were. I knew what was important to her. And as she had opportunities elsewhere, we would vet those. I talked to her, I said, hey, ask this question. So it was always in the back of my mind, if at the right time we had an opening, she was going to be my first call. And we called her. I said, okay, we have an opening. She's like, okay, I'm still coaching, or my team is still in play. I said, okay. And we worked through the process. We were able to interview her. And at the end of the day, when we got done with her Zoom, we just all looked at each other and said, well, we just need to pick up the phone immediately and call her back and offer her, because every answer she gave was on this other side of the page of, what are we looking for? We're looking for someone who shows care and concern for our student athletes, and just tick down the list. It's like we fed her the answers. And it's been incredible having her back home and coaching the program in which developed her from 18 to 22, 23 years old. And now she's doing that for our student athletes and our future student athletes. And it's just, sometimes I take a step back and I'm like, this is awesome.
That is awesome. This is year 2 in the Big 12. It's obviously been a huge challenge for every athletic program at the University of Cincinnati, but it's been a huge success, I would say, as well. Could Cincinnati have remained competitive in football and basketball without being in a Power 4 conference?
I believe so, but I believe that we would have kind of hit a ceiling at some point. I think that the incredible players that took us to the college football playoff, believed in a vision, and they're here. In the current state of where we are, we had to be in the Power 4. With name, image, likeness, now here, house settlement, and our revenue sharing or institutional brand awareness, opportunities for our student athletes on the horizon, not having a Power 4 conference attached to our institution, we'd miss out on a lot of recruits, a lot of high-level talent, talent in this area and talent regionally and nationally. So it was critical for us to get that invitation. A lot of credit to John Cunningham and all the people that worked on that, President Pinto, for believing that this was important and making those investments. But that is where we needed to be, because we were just kind of being maybe we're going to get an invitation. Yeah, we can be pretty good in maybe a 2-bid league eventually in basketball. But that's the pathway to us getting the edge on those recruits. We're like, we love you. We love your program. But, there's some peer pressure there about going to those power programs. And now having the Big 12 as our home conference, now it's like, now what's the excuse? All right, now we're in.
This is the NIL era. It's been a little bit of the Wild West to this point. Are things starting to be figured out?
That's funny. I go back to July 1st of 2021, and we were told you, okay, great. It's going to be these very organic deals. It's going to be the Desmond Ritter Bose headphones and, Carr with his local car dealership. And that's what's wonderful world and opportunities for our student athletes. And now it's like, we just got to make sure we know what's going on in-house and try to put a little bit of tune out the noise. Because you got to sort through what's true, what's not, what's rumors, what's not. So I think that here at the University of Cincinnati, we're doing a really good job of knowing what we need as an institution to be competitive and driving forward in what we need in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years. So we're very forward thinking, and I think that we are very innovative, and that is how we're handling NIL.
We are chatting in the Lindner Center, a few hundred yards away. The Indoor Performance Center is going up. It gets more impressive every time I drive onto campus. How is that going to transform UC? And what about that facility excites you?
It excites me that we are now finally going to have a permanent indoor facility for all of our student athletes to utilize for that training surface, as well as a cafeteria that's going to be able to fuel our student athletes. It's not about feeding them. It's about fueling them for optimal performance, and being able to utilize that space and then have more space for our football staff and program where they have grown. We've outgrown this building, which is incredible. And them being able to have a dedicated space is going to help them continue to make that program rise. And so I think it's going to be a centerpiece. It's something that was always missing in Varsity Village. And now it's there, so I think back to the days when we didn't even have, or I remember the old practice field, which was concrete AstroTurf and a grass field, that went away once we built our new baseball stadium, but we never really had that true home for football. And we're I think maybe one of the only people that practices out in the public in our home football stadium. So having that piece there, I think provides also some sense of a little relief for our football coaches that they can actually conduct practice in the privacy, implement new plays without having to worry about who's around. I know that I would sleep better at night knowing that, hey, they're in there, they got it, they're practicing, and then we can utilize that for all of our other student athletes when we have inclement weather or other things going on fields and practice facilities.
Final thing, how gratifying is it to do what you do at your alma mater?
Oh, there's nothing that compares. I don't think that any job I ever hold in the future will never compare to serving my alma mater. It's like I said, I got my dream job as my first job. So Bob Goyne allowed me to volunteer, one summer to finish up my master's and finish that internship course. And so I took a paid internship, and I was like, the satisfaction or the sense of, I never have to worry about my motivation because I know that this place impacted me more than anything. So that 18 to 22-year-old, it shaped my life. And so the fact that I get to give back via blood, sweat, and tears, there's nothing that compares.
That's good stuff. Appreciate your time. Keep up the great work.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Our next guest on this episode is a UC sophomore who earned All-American honors in track as a freshman, Juliette Laracuente-Huebner. You're from Marengo, Ohio, a town of about 300 people, if Wikipedia is correct, a little bit north of Columbus. What's a kid do for fun growing up in Marengo, Ohio?
I would say probably just biking around and hanging out in the fields. I mean, there's nothing really to do out there unless you travel 20 minutes to the nearest, smaller town, Sunbury, Ohio. But yeah, other than that, just go to the school and play on the playground and just find something to do. You just have to find something.
And when you were playing on the playground, were you always the fast kid?
Yes, I always raced the boys. Yes. I always beat them. It was so much fun.
So, as I mentioned, you earned All-American honors last year as a freshman in the pentathlon, 5 events, the heptathlon, 7 events. How did you become interested in all of those things? So javelin and hurdling and all the things required to do those events.
I actually in high school only did high jump, long jump, triple jump, hurdles, and then 200. And then once I started getting recruited, they started mentioning the multis. So it wasn't really something that was on my radar going through high school. I was really interested in just doing the jumps in college, mainly high jump and triple. But I mean, it came to be that I happened to be very good at all of those events in my senior year of high school. And then they recruited me for that. So yeah, I never threw in high school. I still, it's a learning curve for sure. But yeah, it's all really fun.
How do you train to do so many different things?
We have about 2 practices a day, not counting lifts. So Fridays are a heavy day, so we'll have 2 practices, javelin in the morning, and then a really hard workout in the afternoon, and then we'll have lifts later. But it's about 2 to 3 events per day. Yeah, it's a lot. So we'll do high jump and shot put, or javelin and running, like I told you, long jump and a sprint workout. So just kind of mixing of everything.
All right. In high school, you accomplished something I didn't think was possible. You were the only person from your high school to compete in the state meet. And you won the team title by yourself.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
I don't know. I still don't know. I still think about it, and it's it doesn't feel real. And it was just a crazy day, and it was I was being pulled in all these different directions, doing 4 different events. I had to throw off my shoes to go to long jump, and I was in the middle of a high jump attempt, and it was just all over the place. And it wasn't until I finished the hurdles that my dad yelled out from the top of the stands and was like, "You're almost there. You're about to win the team title." And it was just it was so crazy. It was crazy.
So a one-person state team championship in track, which is amazing. So did you win all of your events in order for that to happen?
Yes, yeah. I knew going into it that it was going to be possible, but obviously it was going to be hard. And I was like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I get second place as a team. That's still pretty awesome. But yeah, I knew if I wanted to even be close to doing it, I had to win all 4. And it just happened to be. So
That's tremendous. You also won the Archie Griffin Award, which they give out in Ohio every year to the top male and female in the state in terms of their sportsmanship. How do you balance sportsmanship with that burning desire to kick tail when you're on the track?
I think just making friends with everyone. I feel like I'm very personable and I just like to be friends with everyone that I'm around. And that's a big thing in the multis too. I mean, you're suffering through 2 days of competition and, you kind of just get close with all the girls because it's like you're competing against yourself rather than each other at some points. But just being friendly, I mean, it's just so nice to have people outside of, your team, the people who you see every day and you go to a meet and you're like, oh my gosh, hey, what's up? So I think that's just really it. And how I balance it is just wanting to make friends, really.
What was the recruiting process like for you, and how'd you wind up at UC?
The recruiting process was actually kind of difficult for me. My junior year, I was good, but not at the top and not where I knew I was going to end up. So I visited 3 schools and I came to UC on an unofficial over the summer before my senior year. And then I came on an official. I made sure it was my last official visit because I liked my unofficial so much. And we came off of 71 and pulled onto UC's campus, and I already kind of knew that this is where I wanted to go. And it was just, Coach Weinberg is amazing, and the team is amazing, and I just feel like the team is just so connected, and we're all friends, like every event group. There's no like separation or cliques or anything, and I just love it here so much. It's just awesome.
You're not too far from home. Was that important?
Yes, that was definitely important. I am definitely a homebody. I love my family. I love my parents and just being home with them. And, going from basically a farm to the big city was a huge change for me. And being close to my parents and just kind of like, knowing that if anything happens, like I can just go home in one day and come back if I need to, or they can do the same, was just really nice to have.
So you're second team All-American as a freshman. How challenging was it to compete against more experienced college athletes in a conference like the Big 12?
Oh, it was hard. It was very, very difficult, especially last year being my first year ever competing in the multis. And I only did 3 pentathlons and 3 heptathlons, and it was like conference was my second one. And, you don't really know if you're going to make it to nationals because of how deep the field can be, especially with all the 5th years and COVID people. But I mean, competing against those girls, it was very difficult, but it was definitely like I learned so much from them. And I feel like they almost like took me under their wing, like I was like their little kid. And they're all so nice. We still keep in contact. Every time I see them at meets, it's like, we're all friends and everything. But I think just learning from them and learning from the difficulty of the multi, 2 days of competition and you're pushing your body to like its end, is like awesome. And I love it so much. And even though it's challenging, it's very fun.
What achievement means the most to you so far and why?
I think probably that indoor pentathlon, qualifying for that at nationals means the most to me because I had a very, very difficult training fall block last year. And, just kind of getting over that hump at conference and just feeling like that was my big breakthrough definitely like meant so much to me. And no one knows how hard I struggled in the fall except for, my coach and my team. But there was times at practice where I couldn't even clear a height and high jump that, I could clear in my sleep in high school. And it was just very frustrating. And then getting to conference and I cleared 5'8" and some change or 5'9" and some change and just, being like, oh my gosh, like, qualifying for nationals and is in arm's reach. Like, it was just so awesome.
Who are some athletes that you admire and why?
I think Anna Hall is definitely by far the one who I admire the most. I think any multi would say that though, but just watching her and how she carries herself through the multi and how, she has fun with it, just like, puts things into perspective for me. Like, yes, I'm doing this to try to win something, but I'm also doing this because I love the sport and I love having fun with it. It's definitely something she was someone I tried to emulate this past year because I get in this zone where I'm like super focused and everything, but just like realizing, sometimes I need to step back and have some fun and, that makes my performance better is just, something I want to do. And she's just so awesome holding the American record and everything. It's just, I hope to meet her one day.
So a couple of former Bearcat track athletes had big summers last year. Annetta Chikawoke won a silver medal in the Olympics in Paris. Loretta Blout competed in the U.S. Olympic trials in the high jump. Have you gotten to know either or both?
Oh, yes, I've gotten to know both of them. Loretta, was coached by Weinberg, my coach right now, and she comes to our practices sometimes. And last year I got to practice with her like 4 times or so. And both of them are just amazing people to, get advice from and look up to. And just what they achieved this past summer, Loretta coming off of her knee surgery and then coming back and qualifying for, U.S. Olympic trials was just, amazing. And then Annette winning that silver medal and watching it with, my nephews at home over the summer was just awesome. And yeah, they're definitely people who I look up to, and they're just, someone I want to, get to on that level with.
What are some of your goals going forward?
I want to, this next year, I want to hopefully, become first team All-American. That's my number one goal. I think it's definitely possible and something that, I'm obviously going to have to work towards. But with last year being under my belt and kind of having that confidence going into this year is definitely, very exciting. And then at conference, I'm hoping, top 2 or even win it. I think that that's definitely possible, and just having fun with it and, training hard and just having, like I said, this past year under my belt and understanding the expectations that come with, the Big 12 and then NCAAs and the multi is just going to help me for sure.
Juliette, this has been a treat. Congratulations on your success so far. Best of luck going forward.
Thank you so much.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know who you would like to hear from next here on the Let's Reign podcast.